Alright, so welcome back to our second video. In this video we're going to make some changes to kind of enhance the appearance, if you will, first off. And so I'm changing over into the .config directory, and I'm going to edit the users-ders.ders. And what that does is obviously set the so you can basically add home directories or directories where you want certain things to show up. And so in this case, everything's pointed to the home directory, so that's obviously root as it's been established. And so I want to create one for desktop, so I'm going to just add desktop, and I'm going to add another one for download. Now normally this is all I will do as part of an installation, is add a downloads in a directory, a desktop directory. So I'm going to change over, make a directory, and I'm going to call this one downloads, and then I'm going to make another one and I'm going to call it desktop. Okay, now if I wanted it to look like a normal Ubuntu installation, I can actually go back in and so I can edit the same exact file, which is the .config users-ders.ders, and I can actually go through and as you can see, it's got everything pointed at the home directory for the user, which is basically in this case root. So I'm going to add in documents, I'm going to add in music, and I'm going to add in one for pictures, and I'm going to add another one in for videos. Now obviously those directories don't exist, so I need to save this, and I need to go in and make those directories. So I'm going to make one for documents, I'm going to make another one for pictures, and then I'm going to make a third one for videos. And so at this point I'll have to reboot to have that actually take place, but all my files will let's go ahead and reboot. So all my files will essentially show up. So if I try to save something to my root directory for an assessment or anything like that, it won't show up on the desktop. I mean, I'm one of these guys that I like a clean environment, clean desktop, so that's kind of what I like to stick with. So again, this is kind of personal preference. You don't have to do this. I'm just one of those that like it. Like I said, I don't normally make a documents directory. I don't normally make a music and a so let's log in here, root and then tour. Of course, I haven't changed the password, but I am going to start up the X Windows. I know that Keith is one that doesn't use X Windows, but I happen to be one that absolutely loves having multiple windows. So I think that's kind of granted, you got multiple TTYs, but I still enjoy just having a window. Besides which, I mean, I get this nice, beautiful graphic, and so it's kind of pretty, anyways. So at this point, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my exploits, my downloads for my exploits. So what I need to do is I need to no, hang on. First, I want to set my host name. Yeah, so I'm going to set the host name to pentest. And then I'm going to edit the Etsy host name, and I'm going to change it from BT to, if I can type correctly, pentest, and then I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to get a DHCP address. Again, if I wanted to statically assign one, I could. I'm just being lazy right now because I want to be able to get one very quickly. So I'm going to take that DHCP address and then use it to access the internet. So now I'm going to make my exploits directories, but it already exists. I'm going to make one for security focus. I'm going to call that sec focus. I'm going to make another one for packet storm, and so I'm going to call that one packet storm because I'm not really original and thinking too much about stuff. So anyways, now I'm going to change over into my security focus or my sec focus directory, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use Google to scrape the security focus website, and so I'm going to have it basically use a wget. I'm setting a user agent in here, and you notice I'll have a simple one. I actually changed this, but the idea is in this case I'm going to use Google wget to pull from Google. I'm going to search security focus, and I'm going to pipe all of that actually after stripping out some information into file.txt. So if I cat the file.txt, I get just the URLs for all of the exploits that I want to get. Now this is only 100 of them. So what I've got to do is I've got a I'm going to change and modify it so that rather than just doing one pipe, it's going to multiple iterations. So it's changing the count number, and you can see that the number count is increased to like 2,300. Now I've got pulled at least 2,300 entries, and then parse those over. And now I'm going to run basically use wget, and I'm going to have it grab the contents of that file, and it's going to download. Now this is going to take some time. In fact, it could take a significant amount of time depending on the amount of bandwidth you have. And quite frankly, I'm doing other stuff like, well, just doing other stuff on. So by pausing it, I can actually show you that I downloaded 800 files. It was about 8.6 megs, and all of those files are stored locally. I don't have to go out and download them. Now, some of them will be PDFs or whatever, or be a text file, and it'll tell you have to go download something. But the idea is I have the majority of them already installed on mine, so if I'm on site, I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that's from Security Focus. Now, I'm used to be able to do something different with PacketStorm, where you could download all the exploits, but based upon year. Basically, I've taken it and I've kind of modified it based upon the modification that they have. So again, now I'm actually using a mobile user agent string to just kind of strip it down and pare down what I'm seeing on Google. So the Bing Diggity guys and those guys kind of helped us with that. But again, I'm looking at packetstorm.org files download, and I'm telling it to basically create a file list for me of all the files that I want to grab. And it's easier to do this, I think, using the mobile string versus using the other. So I've actually gone back and modified the original one to just use the mobile string all together. But the idea is now I've got a file that has all of these the URLs that I want to download. So just like I did with Security Focus, I'm going to do the same exact thing with PacketStorm. I'm going to basically use wget, tell it to grab that file, and then it's going to start downloading all of those files for me. And again, this can take some time, but the idea is, in this case, once I've parsed all those files, if the file already exists, it will not overwrite it, because I haven't told it to. I hadn't told it to download it again. It'll say it already exists and it won't write it. So the first time takes a while. The second time and various updates after that don't take as long. Now again, I downloaded 542 files in about 12 minutes, so I have all the files locally. So if I need them, I can actually go and look at it and take a look at it, and I don't have to worry about using my client's bandwidth or being blocked by anything. I've already set up to go for an internal pen test, or even externally. I've already got the stuff. So now I've got the same thing I'm going to do for Security Reason. Now I'm going to call this one SecReason, and then obviously create a directory. And again, so I'm going to basically not do a Google scrape in this case, because I understand the way that they do their stuff. So I'm going to write a very quick script that's basically going to set a variable that I'm calling alert, and I'm going to say to start at 700, and then I'm going to say, while alert is less than 10,000, I want you to use a wget. And what I'm doing is I'm actually filling in that last portion back there is a variable. So I'm telling it I want it to download 700, 701, 702, 703, and then I'm telling it to obviously increment the variable account, and then once it's done, because it's at 10,000, it'll obviously stop. Now I can switch over to another shell and take a look at it. So I need to change over to the SecReason. There we go. And so I've downloaded exploit 700, 701, 702. So let's take a look at 700. And so in some cases, it may actually just be a string, which is good, because now I've got that actually documented and I've saved all of that. So I will continue to let this run. This is going to take quite a long time to do this, because obviously it's counting each individual time. If I come up with a better way of doing this, and I'm sure there's a hell of a lot better ways of doing this, I'm just kind of being lazy and just going through this. Now at the end of running, and you can see that there's been significant time, I've got all these index.htmls. Essentially what happens was there was a redirect or something, so those index.htmls are all the same file, and it's their index page. And essentially I'm deleting all of that. Now I can cat 999 and look at it and see that this is a let's see, it's a shellcode, and it looks like it is for like a Cyrus buffer overflow or something, but it's for BID 8. So now I'm actually going to go through and kind of take a look at how can I just pull out the title information. So being lazy, I can create a CSV file, but also being super lazy, I can create that a way to grep it and then have it basically have a sample, so no matter what, I'll never forget how to do it, because I tend to forget commands quite often. But in this case, it actually tells me, based upon the sample, which I was just grepping for SSH, which files have any references to SSH in them. So I can actually go and look at those individual ones. Again, this is not the optimal way to do this, or maybe it's not the best way, but it works for me. And so now I've added packet storm, sec focus, and security reason. So security focus and security reason. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to update the social engineering toolkit, and that's real simple. You run set-update within the set directory. It's going to go and download all of the so it's essentially an SVN. I mean, you can take a look at the file and see what it does. So you can run that, and it's going to download all of that, and it'll tell you the latest revision. If there were no updates, it would tell you that. It says you were at the latest revision. So now I'm going to go take a look at W3AF. Now here's where we're actually going to fix a problem. So if I run W3AF underscore GUI, I'm going to be told, oh, there's a problem. So it tells me that it doesn't have the Python-LXML installed. So I have to have the libxml2 wrapper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to now install that. And that will resolve this issue with it just straight out of the box. It's not working. Now I don't know if I ran apt-get update if it would have fixed this, but I just know it didn't work. And so now if I run it, I can run it with the GUI, and lo and behold, you can see that it takes a little while, yes, but it does in fact hopefully work. Yeah, so there we go. So it's building the main screen, and then lo and behold, what do we have? W3AF working. So there you go. So that pretty much covers that. So now I'm going to go and I can update the framework if I want to. And so in this case, I will tell it to do an SVN, and because I'm lazy, I'm going to make sure I got it right. Update, and there you go. So it's now working and running. And of course, I'm always trying to be I'm always fearful that I'm going to take up too much time, or it's just going to sit there and not do anything because I'm downloading porn or something in the background. But the idea is, in this case, it's going to do some deletions. You can see some updating, some additions. So in this case, it's updating, and it tells me what revision I'm at. So now I know I have the latest. So, and that's it, man. That's all. That's where we at on video 2. So the references are there. The URL for socialengineering.org, security reason, packet storm, security focus. Here's the configuration file that you'll need to change, and I've included that if you want to have the bottom section, which is the documents, music, and that. Security focus, we've already talked about that. You're going to basically use Google to scrape security focus. And I'm stripping out anything referencing Google and YouTube. And again, same thing with packet storm. You may know a better way. I'm also stripping out, in some cases, some other things in there. But security reason, we're just doing a count. Telling it to download the exploits and increasing the count by 1 every time it downloads, starting with 700. Let's see, W3AF requires the Python XML. And so Social Engineering Toolkit, that's how you update it. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, this is brought to you by the ISD Podcast.